Can you hear me? Yep. Yeah. Welcome to my public folder session. I thought it's very nice to start with some history about public folder. And basically, you've seen a video from the Microsoft Exchange conference last year, where they talked about the public folder application to play chess. Anybody in the room saw that application or played that application? The chess application back in Exchange 4.0? Wow, yeah. Even I did it, yeah. Andreas, of course, you played it as well, yeah. It was quite a great application. My boss hated it after 4 weeks, so he created a policy not to play it anymore, because we spent like half the day on playing chess all together against each other. It was a great application, basically. Unfortunately, it's not available anymore today. Yeah, so as I said, welcome to my public folder session. So who's using public folder nowadays? I hope almost everybody. Yeah, almost. The rest for who's? So anybody ever tried to get rid of public folders? Yeah. So who succeeded in getting rid of public folders? Yeah, 2. So why are you here? You want to implement it again? That's true, yeah, but Wave 15 supports it. So it's back in, yeah. Yeah, so, well, in the Exchange team, we commonly call the public folders basically the cockroaches of Exchange. Yeah, you know why? Nobody really loves them, and they're hard to kill. Yeah. Well, I looked up something on the web, and here in Europe I can make this joke because in the US they are not regarding Carnival. So if you want to dress up like a public folder for Carnival, you probably would look like something like that. Yeah? Okay, but now let's start. This session is about the modern public folders. Yeah, I talk about the architecture, I talk about the migration, and of course some planning aspects regarding Office 365. My name is Siegfried Jagodt. I'm basically a principal consultant. I work for a company in Germany called Xiopia, and we do Exchange and Link consulting. Besides that, in my evening times, I write books. So you probably have seen one of my books. It's Exchange 2010 Best Practices. Anybody saw it or owns it? Anybody read it? No? Oh, 2. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I'm currently working on the successor, so by November this year, I probably have the version finished for Exchange 2013. Of course, we need to collect best practices here first before we can release it. So we targeted the release date towards end of the year. Yeah. Well, and besides that, I'm also working on Microsoft courseware, and of course I speak at conferences. But let's start. So here's what we're going to talk about in the next 75 minutes. Well, we have 70 minutes left. Huh? So we start talking about the architecture, then we talk about the migration. Yeah? Then I will do a live demo. So any consulting people in the room? Yeah, consulting? Yeah, so the live demo is where I feel always like the first time being at the customer side, where the customer sits right next to me and tells me, yeah, so why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? Yeah, so the live demo, I will take you through the complete migration process. We will basically migrate 1,000 public folder items. We migrate, well, roughly 200 megabyte of data. This is just because of the time, and we will finish it up. So you see all the steps and what's required, so you should get a feeling about the effort and about the planning aspects. And finally, I talk about, a bit about my public folder experiences in working for a large company where we basically try to get rid of public folders. We're still trying for years. Yeah? But let's start with modern public folders architecture. Yeah, as you see, basically modern public folders have been reinvented. Not fully reinvented, but they changed a little bit in their architecture. When I remember first time Microsoft mentioned to get rid of public folders, I think that was back in Exchange 2000. Yeah, then again in 2007. They're still there, and now they are better than ever, hopefully. Yeah, so From the user perspective, nothing has changed at all with modern public folder, and that's the key thing here. So your users won't see a difference. The only thing that changed is the admin perspective. Yeah, so now public folders are stored in mailboxes, not in databases anymore. Each mailbox can contain one or more public folders and contains the public folder hierarchy. Remember, the public folder hierarchy in the past used to be stored in each public folder database. Well, the multi-master replication is replaced by a single master replication. Yeah, so one public folder is the master. Yeah, the benefit here is now with public folder mailboxes, they can go into regular mailbox databases. So they can be part of your HA and your recovery as well. So they are back up in the same way as your regular mailboxes. Well, and the only problem is they cannot coexist with legacy public folders, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So here you see an overview of the supported versions. Yeah? Regarding the client, anything that runs with Exchange 2013 is supported. Over is only supported on 2013 with CO1 or later. Yeah. In regards of the Exchange server versions, Exchange 2013 users can access any public folders. However, legacy Exchange servers cannot access modern public folders. So that's a key planning aspect. You have to move your mailboxes first before you move the public folder to modern public folders or migrate public folders. Regarding migration support, well, basically, it's a cutover migration, so no coexistence. Yeah, and it's the same on-premises or cross-premises. So the migration is not different between when you migrate from Exchange 2007 or 2010 to 2013 or to Exchange Online. Yeah, let me spend a minute about when you should use public folder. Yeah. There are several alternatives available. Apart from public folders, you can use side mailboxes or shared mailboxes. Well, my personal favor is shared mailboxes because they can grow as well in any size, and then at least you have a contact person. Public folders have the benefit of they are available to everybody, and their permission management can be done by anybody. So within Outlook, so it's very easy. However, the problem is the uncontrolled growth of public folders. And of course, with Exchange 2013, you have side mailboxes. So you can connect your mailbox to, well, you connect a mailbox, a side mailbox to SharePoint. So SharePoint stores the documents and the mails go into Exchange. Well, and this is just for a consideration if you want to use public folders at all, for example. Okay, so here I provide you an overview of the differences between legacy, so the public folder as we know it up to Exchange 2010, and the modern public folders. I already talked about the key difference. The public folder database is not available anymore. Now the public folders go into a public folder mailbox. Yeah. Public folder replication went away. Yeah, we have the hierarchy storage. The public folder synchronization is not based on email anymore, which is great, especially for larger environments. Just think about your public folder replication messages that flood the systems. Yeah? I remember back like 10 years ago, we worked for a bank in Germany, and whenever they created a new public folder store, the link to Panama was basically down for half a day because the initial public folder replication just flooded the bandwidth, the link between here and Middle America. Yeah, regarding search. Search was implemented in, well, basically basic search was available with legacy public folders. However, in modern public folders, you can also search attachments. Yeah? So that was enhanced. Yeah, the public folder permission management is now based on RBAC. However, the client permissions are still ECLs as it used to be. Well, that's required so the client, the Outlook can manage them, of course. Yeah, and you see the change in the admin platform as well. Well, modern public folders are managed in EAC or in PowerShell. Well, in legacy public folders, you require the public folder management console or, of course, PowerShell as well. So let's talk about the architecture of modern public folder. Yeah, so basically, I already mentioned they are based on the mailbox architecture. So they are stored. So the hierarchy is stored in all public folders. And you see on this graphic, we have 3 public folder mailboxes. And basically, the hierarchy is on every public folder mailbox, and the content is spread across them. So it's by folder. So the red folder and green folder goes in that public folder hierarchy, and the yellow folder, for example, is in this public folder mailbox. The content is located there. The hierarchy is shared. Yeah? So, as I said, similar administrative features, and the permissions is in RBAC. So let's talk about the public folder hierarchy synchronization and how that works. So basically, you can assume we have a client that connects to a public folder server, well, to a Exchange server, and that hosts a public folder mailbox. So let's assume we connect with this client to the secondary public folder mailbox here on the right-hand side. So now the client, the Outlook client, creates a folder. So the problem here is that the folder content is created within the public folder the client is connected to. And the synchronization, of course, is only based in the primary public folder mailbox. So the main hierarchy, the main read-write hierarchy storage position is the primary public folder mailbox. And only there, a writable copy of the data of the mailbox hierarchy, of the public folder hierarchy, resides. So what happens here? So when the user creates a public folder, basically the secondary public folder mailbox where the user is connected to, or the public folder mailbox the user is connected to, contacts the primary public folder mailbox. Yeah? And at the same time, it's proxied. It's proxied, so otherwise the created folder would immediately be gone again from the secondary copy. So this mailbox proxies the process and sends it to the primary public folder mailbox. And from there, it's synchronized back. And by default, and this setting can be changed in the registry, after 15 minutes, all secondary public folder mailboxes that are where basically users are connected to receive the updates. Yeah, this works in a way that the secondary public folder mailbox basically asks the primary public folder mailbox to if there are any changes, and if there are changes, they just grab it. Yeah. On those public folder mailboxes that are not where no users are connected to, well, the update doesn't need to take that fast, take place that fast. So basically, that happens every hour. And as I said, this can be done. This can be changed in the registry on the mailbox servers. So let me talk about the coexistence matrix. Yeah. So here you see an overview of what you can expect when your mailbox resides on. So if your mailbox is on Exchange 2007, yeah, you can have Exchange 2007 or 2010 public folders, but no online or Exchange 2013 public folders. That's not supported. Well, it's not working. It's not if it's not working. So 2010, the same story. Yeah. With your 2010 mailboxes, you cannot access modern public folders. That's what I already mentioned. And 2013, basically, the great thing is this supports everything. So your public folders can reside on Exchange Online or Office 365, or they are on-prem on Exchange 2013. Yeah, so basically, you're able to implement a hybrid scenario from the public folder perspective. The same applies to Exchange Online. So if your mailbox is on Exchange Online, you are able basically to access any public folder, even on Exchange 2007. Yeah? How does this look from the admin perspective? On the left-hand side, you see the public folder properties of the organization on an Exchange 2010 server, and on the right-hand side, you see it on the Exchange 2013 server. And you recognize, well, on the left-hand side, there's the database. On the right-hand side, we more look towards the default settings of a public folder mailbox. So how would you deploy modern public folders if you don't have public folders nowadays? Well, that's pretty easy. So let's say you want to implement public folders. The one thing you do is you just create a new public folder mailbox. That's the commandlet in PowerShell, you do that. So then your users are able to create folders and messages in the public folders. Well, of course, the users talk to each other. It's like SharePoint, yeah? The users talk to each other, and then they use it more and more. And at some point in time, you decide to create more public folder mailboxes. Yeah. So automatically, the hierarchy is copied over to the new public folder mailboxes. And of course, the users create more and more messages. However, the content goes in the default mailbox. So what you're going to do when a certain threshold is reached, for example, your public folder quota, you just split it. And that's done using a script. The script is in the scripts directory of Exchange 2013 and automatically moves off half of the public folder content to a public folder mailbox that you basically define. So that's automatic. It's a script, yeah. It's not automatic. It's automatic in Exchange Online, but here it's in an Exchange on-prem environment. You need to take care of that. But I'll talk about that later. So what about Exchange Online public folders? So the good story is you get them for free. You get 1.25 terabyte of public folder data for free with your Exchange Online subscription. So that equals to 50 public folder mailboxes with 25 gigabyte each. However, from the 25 gigabyte, only 19 can be used. So your content quota is 19 gigabyte in there. Where's the difference? Well, the public folder hierarchy has to be stored in there as well. And I talk about how much 6 gigabyte of public folders hierarchy storage are later in the session. So the good thing here is Microsoft manages your public folder mailboxes. That means basically you create the first one and the rest is created by Microsoft. So, well, by Exchange Online. Yeah, so when the quota is reached, basically, or the active hierarchy connection count is reached, and I have a slide on that. Basically, Exchange creates more public folder mailboxes for you, so your users don't see that the public folder hierarchy or the structure and the amount of public folder mailboxes is expanding here. And that process is called auto-split. And auto-split is currently not available in Exchange on premises. So that's a manual step you need to take. Yeah. And you have cross-premise access. So Exchange Online, your Exchange Online users can access your public folders stored on your Exchange 2007 or vice versa. Well, on 2013, they can access the public folders on Exchange Online, not to 2010. Okay, let's talk about the auto-split that I was just mentioning. So basically, in the background, we have scripts running, and when the quota is reached, and the quota currently is 24.5, so that's a warning quota when the split happens in Exchange Online, then basically this split commandlet or script that I showed you is running in the background and splits up the content to an additional public folder mailbox. If there is one available. If not, well, Exchange just creates another public folder mailbox and then moves the content to that mailbox. And secondly, the active connection count is considered here as well. So the general recommendation currently is that one public folder mailbox can have 2,000 active active user connections. So if that threshold is reached, Exchange again creates a new mailbox. And by default, basically Exchange spreads the connections across all the public folder mailboxes that are available. Yeah? So let's assume you have 5 mailboxes and 10,000 users, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, but if you only have one public folder mailbox, at some point in time, Exchange Online would create additional mailboxes automatically for you. Yeah. So Exchange takes care of automatically distributing the load between all the public folder mailboxes. So in regards of backup and restore, anybody ever had a public folder restore problem? Yeah? Or 3, 4, 5? Oh, come on. Almost everybody had that, or? I think that was really horrible. Yeah? You had to take an extra copy of the database or made an item level backup from your public folder items in order to recover them. So here the story is quite straightforward. It's the same as your mailbox. So if you're using single item recovery or the single item retention period, basically, well, when somebody deletes a public folder, it's there. So they should go to the dumpster and recover that folder. If it's over that time, of course, you can restore the mailbox database where the public folder mailbox resides to a recovery database and then recover it with the common tools available to a PST and put it back to the public folder structure. So the great thing here is that public folder mailboxes or the public folder content is part of your regular database backup. So you don't need to take care extra anymore about that. Yeah. And it's also, well, if you delete a public folder mailbox, of course, that's with the mailbox retention still available by default 30 days. So how would you migrate, or how can you migrate to modern public folders? So the first and key thing here to remember is basically there is no coexistence. It's either or. Either you use the legacy or the modern public folders. Yeah. And you should consider, well, move all your mailboxes to Exchange 2010 or Exchange Online Wave 15. So that's the latest one, by the way. Before you migrate your public folders. Because once you migrate them, you lock down the legacy structure and then it's not accessible anymore. But you see that in the demo I'm doing. Yeah. And public folder migrations do not have a GUI. So there's no wizard. Click next, 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 next. Yeah. No, this is PowerShell only. And you're going to see that. You're going to see my fast typing of the commandlets that are that long. Okay. Yeah, migration to Exchange Online, as I said, we support 2007, 2010, and 2013. There's no requirement for hybrid deployment. Yeah, so you just need to make sure Outlook Anywhere is available in order to migrate public folders. Yeah, so for those of you that are thinking of migrating to Exchange Online, then you don't need a hybrid for doing public folder migrations. Okay, so what are the migration requirements? Well, as usual, install the latest and greatest, otherwise you face problems. Yeah? Just the latest one, Service Pack 3, well, we are currently with, what's it? RU2 or 1? I think 1, or? Yeah? We RU8 on 2007 or later. Yeah? Make sure the replication is healthy, because that's key. Yeah? There's only one copy that goes over, so the replication must either, well, I personally recommend to reduce the replication by one, at least to one copy only. That makes it easier for the copy process. If you don't consider that, well, the script takes care of where it will copy the data from. However, replication is problematic when the users are working in the public folders at the same time you run the copy process. Okay, and all public must cut over. In general, there is a short downtime of public folders involved. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a short downtime involved in that process where basically your users cannot use public folders. So the recommended way is to move this on a weekend, and the primary purpose of the downtime is to make sure that no users basically add more content during your last final delta sync of the content to the modern public folders. And after that, you open the new environment to your users, and then they can continue to work as before. And the key here is to understand rollback is always possible, even 2 weeks later. So you can roll back if you have the feeling that it's not good. So this is the high-level process. So let's start. Yeah, first we basically run a couple of scripts. The export public folder statistics script is available. Well, the two scripts I mentioned here, they are available for download. So you need to grab them from the web. And they basically investigate your public folder environment and create the migration batches and make sure you understand how many public folder mailboxes you require. We go into that in a detail. So after that, you basically create the public folder mailboxes. So if you just create one, you click that, and the first one must be configured for hold for migration, and that's because it's basically locked in the system, and this is the primary hierarchy target. So then you begin the migration. And similar to moving mailboxes in your environment, you just create a new public folder migration request. Yeah? And this request basically starts copying the hierarchy and the content over to your public folder mailbox. Yeah, you see here it goes. Yeah. At some point in time, and that's by reaching 95% of the process, the public folder request, the migration request, is suspended. So the reason to suspend this is to allow you multiple delta syncs. Yeah. So at 95%, basically 95% means all the content according to the migration batch is in the final infrastructure, but we don't open the target infrastructure, the target public folder structure yet. Yeah? When you want to finalize the migration, the public folder migration, you first need to log out your users. And that's basically done using the following commandlet. So you just say public folders logged for migration true. Yeah? And that provides you with a screen. So that provides you with the functionality that Outlook users cannot access public folders anymore. And you will see this in my demo in a minute. Yeah? You need to allow replication to take place in larger public folders structures. Yeah, if you have who's having more than 10 public folder databases currently? One? Yeah, just. So replication must take place so all the users are logged out. And then basically you remove from the public folder request, migration request, a tag that says prevent completion. You put that to false, and then you do the last delta sync. So with resume public folder migration, you basically do the delta sync, and then it finalizes the synchronization. It finalizes the migration and opens the new modern public folder structure to your users. And opening the public folder structure basically can be done in the following way. You can open the new structure just for a couple of users if you like to. So basically you set a mailbox and direct it directly to a public folder. Yeah? And when you public folder mailbox, or you just say, okay, it's excluded from serving hierarchy, that opens the public folder mailbox for everybody. I'll show you that in a minute. Yeah? And finally, you basically you configure your Exchange 2010 or 2007 to make sure public folder to the public folder migration complete commandlet or attribute to make sure that message delivery works. But let's go into a bit more detail before we go into the demo. As I said, yeah, first you prepare your Exchange public folder infrastructure. Yeah. So there's still a couple of problems with public folders that include a backslash. So you're required to search and replace any backslash in your public folder names before you start migration, because otherwise the migration batch will fail. Yeah. And the second thing is here, especially if you're thinking about Exchange Online, you should reduce the public folder content of a single public folder to 25 gig. Then you download the scripts. So here you have the scripts. Yeah. And there's an optional task. Basically, that's for those that don't trust the migration batch, that everything comes over. Here, you export every statistical information about your public folders, the items, how big they are, what folders are available, to CSV files, and that's you can use that after the migration to compare the final infrastructure, to make sure that everything is the same way as it used to be in Exchange, in your legacy Exchange public folders. Okay, running the scripts. So basically the first one contacts all your public folder databases, so all your Exchange servers that have public folder databases on them. And you see here's an example of just an infrastructure with roughly 50,000 public folders and a couple of servers. It took roughly 15 minutes to run that. Yeah. The export file is a mapping file, and then you use the public folder to mailbox map generator to put that information into context and put it and get information about how many public folder mailboxes you require. Yeah. So here with this batch, with this script, you basically define how large my default public folder mailbox should be. So that's 15 gigabytes. And you see I ran into certain issues. It says, okay, there's a larger public folder size than 15 gigabyte. So I increased it to 20. Well, then there was another one that has 26 gigabyte, one folder, 26 gig. So I thought, well, 28 gig, that's okay. Yeah. And finally, it created all the information, and this is the output example. So this file is used for your public folder migration batches. And you see it includes the target mailboxes and the subtrees of the public folder. So it splits up your existing public folder environment already to the target mailboxes. So, and after that, we use this file. Well, first we need to, of course, create the public folder mailboxes before we start the migration. So the amount of mailboxes, remember, here we have 5 mailboxes. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 5 mailboxes. So on the next step, I would create 5 mailboxes. Of course, considering the amount of users here as well. So if you're below 10,000 users, active users to use public folders, 5 mailboxes is good. So you create them basically, and the process is the first one is required to have some special settings. It's hold for migration is true and is excluded from serving hierarchy is true. Otherwise, for example, Outlook 2013 or mailboxes, well, Exchange 2013 mailboxes would be able to access it immediately, and that's what you want to prevent. And all other mailboxes go with the is included from service hierarchy. Yeah. So regarding the quotas, yeah, by default in Exchange 2013 on premises we have a quota of 2 gigabyte. Yeah. You want to consider to increase that quota. Yeah. The general recommendation and also what's the default in Exchange Online is 25 gig. The maximum is 100 gig. What we currently recommend from the Microsoft Exchange product group. Yeah. So don't go over 100 gigabyte currently. That's what we tested. So after that, we begin the migration. So basically, we create the migration request, and that goes with this commandlet. Yeah, and we verify the migration with the public folder get public folder migration request statistics. The include report here is key because the report includes the details about what's happening under the hood. Yeah, and I already mentioned you can do several resumes. So yesterday I had a discussion with a gentleman about a very large structure. So in larger structures, you probably want to resume the migration like every second day or every week or whatever to make sure that the final step is the content of the final step migration or copying is just very tiny. And then it, of course, goes also faster. Then we say, okay, at some point in time, we want to switch the systems. So how does this happen? So basically, we lock out our users. So that's the screen what the Outlook users get. Yeah, when you lock this out. So when you use setconfig public folders locked for migration is true, and you wait for a replication to happen, then all the users will get a screen like that and cannot access the public folder structures anymore. So then you remove the tag prevent completion from the migration request and run resume. And wait, of course, get public folder migration statistics and investigate here when the migration is finished. After that, well, and here's a common issue that I found that many people had when testing public folders. So in the report, it said, relinquishing job because the mailbox is locked. Well, the problem here was that the source environment, so the Exchange 2010 or 7 environment, wasn't locked correctly. So here again, you need to lock that. So if you see a message like that, just lock your source environment and it will go through. So after that, to finalize, and I already mentioned that, you can assign specific mailboxes to allow access to a specific public folder mailbox before it's opened in general. And that's using this commandlet. You set a default public folder mailbox on a user mailbox. And you can use Outlook or OVA to verify that the public folders are there in place and the content is there. Well, of course, that's by mailbox. To allow general access, you remove the is included from service hierarchy tag. So you put it to false for every public folder mailbox. So with this commandlet, basically, you open up the Exchange 2013 legacy modern public folder structure. So as a last step on the legacy servers, you need to set config public folder migration complete to true. And that allows you, that enables Exchange 2010 to deliver email messages to email-enabled public folders in the modern public folders environment. So if you lock it down, once you lock it down in the source environment, all email-enabled public folders that receive emails during that time will basically be placed in the queue. So the message queue will fill up with those emails that are targeted towards the email-enabled public folders. And once you do that, these emails will be delivered to modern public folders. However, I heard they are sometimes stuck in the queue, so take a look in your queues and make sure you might want to restart the queue in order to have them successfully delivered. Yeah? And finally, you can remove your legacy public folder databases. And here's my recommendation: don't remove them too quickly, because then after you remove them, obviously a rollback is quite hard. So how does a rollback work? And as I said, this is quite easy. You just set organization and config to false, and remove the public folder mailboxes. Yeah? So basically, you have two configuration parameters in the Exchange 2010 or 2007 environment, and you remove the public folder mailboxes, then all your users will connect back to the legacy public folders. However, here you need to consider that, of course, if your users already worked in the new environment, then basically you must think about how to get the content back to the legacy public folders. Okay, so now let's take a demo. You see that? Okay. So here you basically see my active environment. So everybody knows how to access public folders in Outlook 2013. It's quite easy, yeah? So you just click on the dots, then on folders, then you go very much down, and then you extract that. So you see that's very easy. That was a joke. Okay. So we have the public folders here. So my mailbox is based on Exchange 2010. So this is just the public folder structure. What I'm going to do here is I create a new folder for TechEd Europe. Yeah, and just so you see it's live, I put in a new post saying, hi. What an amazing post. Yeah. So now we created a new public folder and a public folder item. Now let's migrate the public folders. So let's switch to my demo environment, and that's back in Germany. So I'm directly accessing my demo environment here. You see I have a couple of servers. We work with my primary Exchange 2010 server, that's the EX01, and my 13 server, that's the EX13. Yeah? So the first thing I would like to show you is basically when we connect on Exchange on, 2013 and run the get public folder, get public folders, we basically get an error message saying there is no public folder mailbox. So why is that? Yeah, that's because Exchange 2013 is not aware of Exchange 2010 or public folder mailbox databases. Yeah? So you need to manage Exchange 2000 legacy public folders from your old environment, and only in the new environment you can only manage Exchange modern public folders. Okay. So I ran the scripts already. So I didn't. So that's what the export mapping file basically created. So you see, my structure is not that big. Yeah, as I said, I have 1,000 items in there, like 50 folders, and roughly 200 megabytes. So that's what we created. So here we need to create one mailbox. Yeah? So I create just a new mailbox. Yeah? New mailbox, public folder. Yeah. So the mailbox name, and you can change the mailbox name in the CSV if you like to. Yeah. You just need to consider to create the right mailbox names in here. And then, of course, I need to add the hold for migration. Is true. Yeah, and the is excluded from service hierarchy also is true. Bang. So now it creates the public folder mailbox. The next command that I'm running, and I need just 10 seconds here, so the public folder mailbox is available, is this script. So you see it's basically using the CSV file, so this file, and creates a public folder migration requests using that information. So, where is it? So now we created the public folder migration request. So let's take a look. So get public folder migration. So here's our request. We use statistics. Then we copy the name. And as I said, you need to include report and do a pipe FL so we can see everything. And here you see the public folder migration request that I just started. So basically what you see is these are the details. This is the report. Yeah? And in case of any issues with the migration request, or, for example, if you have any connectivity issues, you will find information in here. Yeah, so here you see, for example, and I'm talking about this in a bit more detail because right now it's copying in the background that public folder data. Yeah, so I need to spend like 2 minutes on that, so the data is copied. Yeah. So you see that it started to create a public folder hierarchy. Yeah, then it said, okay, the first sync, 57 folders. And after that, it said, okay, now we load the messages. We are at 20%. Yeah, and it enumerated roughly 200 megabyte and started to copy the content. So the public folder hierarchy was created. the public folder content is currently being copied. So let's run it again. So now you see we're basically copying. Yeah. So we are right now in the copy state. When we look a bit up, we find quite useful information about the speed. And again, the copy speed depends, of course, on your system. Well, I'm using SSD drives in my demo environment, so that's pretty fast. However, in the report, you see bytes transferred, the total. So we are on 150 megabyte from 200 megabyte, and you see an average per minute. So that allows you to calculate the time required to copy everything over, of course. Yeah, you see certain information about what public folder database is used, what's the source version of Exchange, what's the target version. Yeah, so just use this information as your basis. So now we are finished at 95%. It worked. So you see on the button, it says incremental sync percentage complete 95%, automatically suspending job. So that's the normal approach. So right now, we copied over all the content, all the public folder data. If I run resume public folder migration batch again, then it will enumerate any changes and see if there's changes and copy them over as well. And after that, of course, suspend again. So now let's lock the old environment. Come on, go away. So I connect to my Exchange 2010 system and basically run set organization config minus public folders locked for migration, and I say true. So in order to speed the process, and I wouldn't recommend this in a production environment, I restart the information store. Anybody knows what's happening when I restart the information store? Nobody? That's true. Everybody will be disconnected. So all your users lose connections, and your users won't be happy about that. Well, so we restarted that. So in order to show you what happens, basically I log out of my Outlook that I run here, and I log in again. And I access my public folders. You see, that works, and then, bang, there's the error message. Yeah? So the users try to access the public folders, get an error message that they are currently not accessible, and then, of course, they call their help desk. So you might want to inform your help desk about that. But this is to show that basically the user is not capable of doing any changes anymore. And after that, we switch back, and basically, what you would do on the Exchange 2013 system, you basically would resume. Where's my So you would do another resume if you want to. Yeah, and this is only to show what happens behind the hood, because it's not yet finished. So no, yeah. So resume just looks for any changes. It saw, okay, there is no change, and then says, okay, I'm done. So in order to finish the public folder migration, we need to open it up, yeah, and that's done using the set public folder migration request, folder migration requests, then of course the request name, and is prevent completion is false. Yeah. So this means, okay, my dear public folder migration request, now you are allowed to finish it up. And then we do a resume. So the resume starts it again, enumerates all the changes, gets the content over to the target environment, and we will see it here. It says, well, it's not running. It's still running. Let's give it another try. So request is completed. So under the hood, basically, the hold for migration setting of the public folder mailbox is now removed. So now we are able to connect mailboxes to that very public folder mailbox. So I do this. I just use set mailbox, and I use just an Exchange 2013 mailbox here. I put in the default public folder mailbox and say mailbox 1. So now I can open my over, log in as that mailbox, and I can access my public folders, I hope so. So now you probably ask, oh, well, there's no public folders in there. Well, in over they're a little bit hidden. So public folders are right-click on favorites and then click add. And here you see the public folder hierarchy, and we just browse down to the folder we created, click add. So in over, public folders are only displayed if you add them to your public folder favorites. Then we can click on that, and here you see my message. Yeah? So now we verified. We basically copied over everything to modern public folders. We verified that the content is there, and I can spend as much time as I like to verify that the content is there. You can also run another, what I showed you with the analysis, to go back to that, and run it against that specific public folder mailbox or all your public folders, and compare the differences, if there are any. Of course, there might be corrupt items. That happens. Yeah? So some of the items probably don't go over because when they are corrupt, you cannot save them anymore. There's a bad item limit, by the way, on the move request that you can set. So then these items will be skipped. Okay, let me show you the administration, so the management areas of modern public folders. So modern public folders are used, as I said, managed, as I said, either in PowerShell or in EAC. So that's wrong. Oh, 1 second. EAC, admin center, password. Here we go. So here you see the Exchange admin center. Yeah. Who's running Exchange 13, by the way, already? Thomas? No sleeping in the first row. Yeah. So you manage public folders on the public folders tab. Yeah. Here on the and here you see all your public folder mailboxes, and you can configure the public folder mailboxes. The key to configure your public folder mailboxes with is basically the quota settings, if you want to use different quota settings. However, I recommend to set it on the organization level, so all your public folders have the same quota settings. Yeah. On the other hand, you see how large it is. Yeah. Your public folders can be managed using public folders tab on here. So basically you see that that's very innovative. Yeah. So you can go down and you can go up with this little arrow up. Yeah. So it's very tricky, and basically you can manage the folders just by clicking manage, for example, on the right hand side. And here you can assign permissions, for example, or you can configure mail enabled public folders. Yeah. You also can create and delete public folders here, of course. So that's all in the Exchange admin console available. Okay. So that's it regarding the demo. Any questions to that? I guess, yeah? Yeah? One question? Okay.
We have mail-enabled public folders that
Yeah.
people read from, but they also have some kind of, I think it's a DLL installed on their output file that enables that if you answer a mail, you actually write the mail as the email address from that public folder. Will that work with Exchange?
So the question was if there's, well, they have an application on the client side that uses sent as, the public folder email address. Will that work? Basically, yes, because there's no change from the user perspective. And the add-in runs against Outlook 2010 or 2013. And as you've seen, Outlook 2013 supports modern public folders, so it should work without a problem. However, as usual, test it, please. Yeah. Yeah. So when the question is, when does the mail delivery to the public folder stop? To the legacy. That's when you lock your public folder. So when you run the set organization, and let me switch back. So basically, when you run that commandlet, that stops your email delivery. Yeah. So it basically places them to the queues, and the queues will store all the messages that are delivered. So you might want to consider that the final completion period should be less than your default queue expiration time slot, but which is normally 2 days, so it should be fine. Yeah. One more question here? Yeah, you're saying entry ID in regards as a public folder attribute? Well, the public folder attribute, it's copied over. So even the red status, everything is maintained the same way. Yeah. 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 I didn't test that one, but I assume yes, because it basically the items. Well, what you're saying, the attributes are part of the public folder content. So and they move over the same way they move over with the. So yes, they should move over, and there shouldn't be a problem. Last question, but we have a question and answer after that. Who was first? Yeah. Yes, of course. Well, and that's the key, and I talk about that towards the end regarding the planning aspect because of replication. So the question was, to repeat for the recording, if I can spread the public folder mailboxes between certain or move them to certain databases that are located at certain sites. And of course, that's pretty much the same as with your mailboxes. So you should consider the public folder mailboxes being close to your users or the majority of your users. Yeah. Okay. So we have, and I have at least, let's say, a couple of minutes after the session for question and answers here. So let's continue. So you've seen the migration process in 10 minutes. Isn't it great, migrating your public folders in 10 minutes? And you saw it works. Well, you have to believe me it works. Yeah? At least it does not work in my Outlook anymore because my mailbox is on Exchange 2010. But in over 2013, it works. Yeah? So what's different when we talk about Exchange Online? So the key difference is, of course, you have to have a route for your email-enabled public folders that points to Exchange Online. Secondly, your sync in a hybrid deployment does not support email-enabled public folders. So there are 2 extra scripts you need to run, and that's what's mentioned on the second line here, export-import scripts. So basically, you export all the SMTP addresses of your mail-enabled public folders, and you import it in the target to mail-enable them and to make sure they accept the email addresses. Well, and of course, the public folder migration request looks a bit different. Why? Because we require much more information about the source environment here. Remember, the MRS, the Mailbox Replication Service, grabs the information from the source. So Exchange Online will connect to your Exchange on-premises environment using Outlook Anywhere. And of course, you need to configure that and allow that. Also, the appropriate permissions. So Exchange Online can read all the content and all the public folders. So let's talk a bit about experiences. Yeah. So I'm working for quite a large company. They have 1.2 million public folders. It's considered a large public folder structure. Yeah? We have 173 public folder stores, yeah, and we have roughly 34 terabyte of data. Yeah? So all the combined data are 34 terabyte, and the public folder hierarchy alone is 6 gigabyte. So now we come back to the thought about why in Exchange Online I only get 19 gigabyte compared to the 25, which is the limit. Well, basically, so roughly you can store 1.2 million public folders in there, because that would be the size of the hierarchy. So I'm working for a division that basically has 2/3 of all the public folders, 700,000 public folders, and roughly 10 terabyte of data. And the majority of issues that I've seen is basically, when we started with the public folder design, the hierarchy was in regards of the organizational structure. So we have a lot of departmental names. However, departmental names change every 2 years, latest. Or? Yeah. So there are departmental names that only the old people remember when accessing the public folder structure. Yeah. Second problem, or main problem, is no automatic removal. So the people used to dump their data just to remove their mails from their mailboxes and move them to the public folders and left it there. Nobody ever takes care of public folders anymore. And that's a huge issue, because a size of that, that's like 12 years or 10 years plus old. Yeah? How do you get rid of the data? How do you identify the data? Yeah? So we are currently at a growth rate of 10,000 folders per month. Why is that? Well, basically, they use it for projects. Yeah? But I come to that in a minute. So how would you analyze a structure like this? Yeah? Especially if it's, let's say, more than 50,000 public folders, it's getting hard. Because Exchange does not provide any good hierarchical information apart from Outlook. And I guess if you click through Outlook and right-click properties, what's the folder size of all the folders and the subfolders, that probably takes a half an hour just for one folder or folder structure. So what we did here is basically, of course, you have to use the basics. Yeah? You export your public folder structure to a CSV file, and then we use Pivot in Excel to create a extractable structure like that. And you see here, I see not only the folder count, I also get information about the folder sizes. So I was able to identify the larger structures, like this one. This guy has 1.6 terabyte in their structures. And that's only a single department, by the way. Yeah? So we were able to investigate here the owners, yeah, and found out the following. Well, basically, as I said, I did not find a single public folder app that runs on the public folder directly. Yeah, more like client apps like you do. Yeah, but that's not a problem when reducing public folders. So mainly mails are just moved there. Yeah, so for projects, for tenders, for or upcoming projects, and that division does power plants. So power plant is like a lifetime of 10 or plus years. Yeah, so they just use the old data and copy it over to the new environment or to a new folder structure. And that, of course, explains the folder growth rate. Yeah, and they use it as a central storage for shared calendars or contacts. That's all. That's all. But as I said, the problem is we wanted to get rid of public folders. So we started to talk to them. Yeah. So they said, yeah. So we just use it as a central place to dump our information about the projects. Yeah. However, the project in itself normally is over after, like, let's say 2 or 3 years, but the process did not involve any removal of the data or archiving of the data. So we started to talk about alternatives to reduce the public folder content. And you might want to think about that before you move all the old stuff to the modern public folder structure, because you just move probably mails from 99. I found mails from 99 in the structure. and I try to identify anybody left. Well, maybe they are not alive anymore, yeah, but 99 is quite long ago. So we identified, well, first, public folder replicas. We reduced them. However, we also told our users that they should start moving off the public folder content to PSTs. Yeah, that's the cheapest way to get rid of the public folder content. Why is that cheap? Because, for example, SharePoint provides a cost of data, and it's also online. Yeah? And then you move public folders to SharePoint. That's just moving the problem from the left side to the right side. Yeah? Because the data stored in SharePoint is also, at some point in time, old and needs to be cleaned up. Yeah? So our main problem with the public folders is that we don't know about the owners yet, and that takes probably a long time to identify all the owners. So we encourage our users to move to shared mailboxes or functional mailboxes. Why is that? Because there we have a process where the mailboxes expire after a year. So the owner is contacted, and the owner needs to reapply for that mailbox in order that the mailbox is not automatically removed. Yeah, and of course, that's all. Yeah. So let me talk about the planning aspect. So after that, I thought, okay, let's discuss how I would go forward. So the question that's most important for you to ask yourself is, do I really need to move my public folders? If it's too complicated, you don't need to. The coexistence is in place, so you can coexist. Yeah, at least for this version, probably for the next version, I don't know. Yeah? But if it's complicated, widely dispersed, global, and hundreds of thousands of folders, start the cleanup now, yeah? And then think about modern public folders. Yeah? Then, of course, you need to consider how many public folders, mailboxes you need. Remember, one is minimum in order to provide a structure, and per 2,000 users, you should create at least one. And then, of course, the question about where to place public folder mailboxes. Yeah? And I already mentioned in the question that you should consider here placing it towards the main users of public folders. And as I said, when I investigated the structure of my division, I found like that 90 to 95% of the public folders are owned by just a couple of people. Yeah? Even though the division is like 50,000 users, maybe 1,000 users only use this. And that's normally the headquarter or the sales people that use public folders, in my opinion. I don't know your company's business, but maybe you get very easily to the point where you say, oh, I know who's using public folders. Yeah? All the new ones probably don't find it in Outlook. So if you don't tell them where to find it in Outlook, they won't see it. Okay. So how would you migrate a large public folder structure? And here again, first, cleanup. Second, reduce the public folder replicas where possible. And with our bandwidth nowadays, it shouldn't be a problem to reduce the replicas. Yeah, and that was the primary thing we introduced. So we want to get to a one replica only structure within the next couple of months. In my example, yeah. So that at least you don't have the message flow between the replications anymore. And then, of course, you need to, don't forget, first migrate your mailboxes, then consider your public folders. So the public folders would stay where they are, and you start migrating your mailboxes. So then, at some point in time, you just start to sync. It's no harm. You just start to sync, let it run for a couple of weeks when your folder structure is large, and just verify it. Remember, that runs in the background. Yeah? You don't have much impact on your production here, apart from, of course, you need to have the data, the databases grow in consideration here. Well, and then whenever everybody is migrated, define a weekend and do the lockdown. And final delta sync, and of course, then switch to modern public folders. That brings me to the commandlet scripts page that I just combined. When I got to public folder migrations, I found it quite hard to understand, and the documentation is not really good up to now. Maybe it's better soon. And Microsoft works on updating here. You see all the parameters that I used in the demo, and basically have the information what happens. And your question regarding when the emails are locked down, for example, is also here. Yeah. So, where is it? There. Email, receive emails, and lockdown is here. Yeah. Okay, that brings me to my summary page, where basically you have a couple of scripts. Regarding configuring on-premises public folders in a hybrid deployment, Brian Day basically released 2 weeks ago a new white paper on that. So the coexistence story is getting on, and the public folder white papers are still being developed. There are 2 to follow here. So just wait a couple of more weeks until you see them available. What's available is basically the migration scripts and the migration white papers. And as I said, we started with the on-premise public folders for a hybrid deployment white paper. There's going to be another one on the other way around. Yeah. Related content. Well, if you want to hear a little bit more about modern public folders, we did a TechEd radio. That's available on this link. Yeah, it's called All About Modern Public Folders. And basically the people from Microsoft that helped me in developing this course, that's Kanika Ramji and Brian Day, are part of this recording, and we talk about public folders, modern public folders here. Okay, track resources, yeah, that's common. See you at NAC. Now more resources, and that's the eval. Yeah, I hope you understand it, because I didn't even try it. It's quite hard, I heard. Yeah, so it would be great if you can eval my session, because that brings me here. I thank you for your attendance. I'm here for questions. Yeah, so just come up, and I wish you all a good day, last day for the show, and a pleasure to have seen you here. Thank you.